Welcome to the first day of the open qualifiers for the Xenon Spring Burst competition. I'm Alios casting with Yali at the moment, and well, we're gonna have some fun siege action for you here in a sec.
Yeah, we have some really exciting teams brought up for you. I'm really excited to watch these guys. One of them being a pug stack, and the other one being, I guess, also a pug stack, but with some very familiar names on it. But we can go ahead and take a look at those rosters in just a second. I've known the Rob Silly Animals RSA, if you will, guys, for a hot minute, and while they are kind of a pug stack, not like a big name, they're kind of qual warriors. So I'm really excited to see if the likes of Benji and Nightmare Nix can actually put up like a really solid fight against them, or if the qual warriors are gonna shine through and come out on top.
Yeah, I think there is kind of something to be said for pug stacks kind of being more dangerous when put up against less experienced kind of complete teams because you got nothing to lose, right? It's you and a bunch of boys just kind of going at it and seeing what happens. And when you go up against a team that is kind of like built up and has names like Benji Mula and Nix, both of whom have a lot of pro league experience under their belts, does kind of look bad when you start to lose. And so if Rob Silly Animals can kind of lean into that a little bit, then could be something dangerous to go up against. And likewise, however, if PXG can lean into the structure they'll have from their experience and from being more of a complete team, then that also can kind of cancel out the pug stackiness.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the map bans really fast. We've got a pretty exciting thing because let's be real, it is no secret that we're living in it. I was gonna say loving it. I don't know how much we're loving it, but
I'm
we
not.
have a defender sided meta. We have a really strongly defender sided meta, and if you've been keeping up with SI at all, you know that Clubhouse is going to be our most defender sided map, and
Yep.
it's not close. Some 70% defender sided so far at SI, and
Yep.
while it's true, we're not, this is not going to be an SI level matchup. As much as I would like to see that, it I think a lot of those same storylines are still going to play through where
Hmm.
it's just going to be a lot easier to make tricks, hold down these really tight positions that are hard for you to actually penetrate into as an
Hmm.
attacker, simply for the fact that the defenders have so many tools at their disposal, especially on a highly position dependent map like Clubhouse.
Yeah, and even if we don't have SI caliber players in the lobby, we do still have they have access to the same tools that the SI players have access to, and they have also been able to watch SI. We've had games going for most of this week since or for the last few days, and so you can kind of see that and then go, okay, we can do this, this, and that on Clubhouse to kind of keep this wall closed or maybe hold this position down a little bit longer. And so it should lead to some pretty interesting siege from both sides because we know that most of the people in this lobby will have been watching SI a pretty decent amount, especially since there are the drops for the esports packs. So, we could see people start to cook some stuff up with what they've seen in games in SI.
What I'm really excited to see is maybe, just maybe, we're gonna see the CCTV balcony mirror window. That's been really popular at SI. In the past, I've highly criticized it, but I guess if the pros are doing it, then we might have to consider that it might actually be entirely valid.
It is a little bit of an oddball strategy to some, but it does allow you to trick that wall, and it makes it very difficult to get open properly. So we're getting into the bans here. First, we have RSA taking out Ying, followed by PXG taking out the Hibana. Ying is excellent for just cracking open a site during an execute. If you kind of know how to get those Candelas in there, plus for the secondary hard breach charge, she can open hatches. And Hib is kind of the hatch queen, so getting her out of the way, it makes sense as well. Followed by a Fenrir, who is what I call the Big Four. And it's not as cool as the Big Four we had in like 1993, but they are the most the most powerful 4 defenders in the game right now. All
Unsurprising to see these players off, or rather these operators off. Fenrir, Solus, definitely not surprising at all. As well as Habana, classic, something we've seen for a long time, and Ying off as well. An operator often used to penetrate those difficult positions, as I mentioned before, not going to be available. Instead, we're going to be looking at a probably slightly more solidified, structured play style, especially with the likes of Tubarão being brought.
going down to Church and Arsenal as our opener here. And we're going to see, I'd say, a pretty common lineup coming out from RSA with that K being used to hold down the hatches as well as the Tubarão. Although Tubarão can be used for general denial. The Azame can cut off some lines of sight, and the mirror windows can kind of create these power positions that the defense can lean into and kind of play around a lot. And then the Legion is good for a secondary shotgun and also just his ability to be a general nuisance with an absolutely amazing gun in the T5. And the fact that his goo mines really, really hurt when you step in them.
Starting us off on this defense, we've got everyone flipping around. We're starting off on, maybe they weren't expecting it, but it's going to be basement. Get us going. We've got lots of flat place hard breach charges to make sure that those hatches are not going to stay closed for very long, as well as some pretty solid defense, but also kind of default, right? We've got the Azami going to be used to cut off a lot of sight lines down into church. That's something that we see frequently, since a lot of the times execute is going to have to come from 2 different directions, and that almost always includes blue. So being able to cut off a lot of those sight lines down there is key to a lot of the attacking ideas that those players like to use. However, starting us off all the way on the top floor, it's going to be Nightmare Nix with the clean pick on to John Asian. Starting us off, first pick of the map. That's going to be easy, and that's going to be a good chunk of the roam dismantled with much less than a minute off the board.
One of the most powerful defenders on the board as well being taken out. The 4 Punky Birds taken down on the Mira, which gets rid of that Nitro Cell that she had, and also just whittles down the numbers a little bit more. You're going to see Tech pretty isolated. It looks like you know about where he is. He's going to fall down blue here. Get some damage onto the Twitch before going down, but ultimately decides to retreat and preserve his life. B Money gets 1, and Tradger gets 1 as well. So sitting at a 4v2 here, going into the last minute and a half. And the attack has plenty of time and space to do whatever they want now, whether that be vertical play or just getting hatches open or just holding angles to see if people will walk into them. They really can do whatever they want.
Yeah, that's going to be kind of the key idea from this point forward on the attack. And we do have a much more structured play style of a team compared to RSA. And that's going to lead to hopefully the ability to sit back, drone, get a lot of information, and play off of what they know is going to happen. The only opportunity here for RSA is if they actually get back, get active, and looking for these peaks. There's one of those players off the board, and that's not going to be great.
See Tradger left in a 1v4 here. You're going to swing the bottom of main stairs, but no, Cal gets the swing instead. And that's a pretty convincing round going the way of PXG off of some fantastic roam clear and teamwork.
Allie, didn't I mention earlier that this is the most defender-satted map?
Well, you did, and so far off of some data of 1 round, that is holding true, although the night is still young, and I think I've probably seen crazier stuff happen.
That is entirely honest. I don't know. I think, given the fact that we've seen an attacking round just go very solid, I think that still speaks a little bit to my point about how this is a positionally oriented map, right? There's lots of very key positions. For example, just on this side alone, they're going to be holding that bathroom position really hard. They're going to be holding Logi very, very hard. That's very key map control for PXG to try to gain as attackers. But the question is, are they actually going to be able to hold on to that, the kind of utility that they've brought for that, bringing the Izami and the castle in order to deny lines of sight, make sure that those positions are able to be played for longer? I think that's good, as well as a lot of wall denial. That could really slow down PXG, but at the same time, PXG is bringing a lot of equipment to deal with it. They've got the EMPs from both Dokkaebi and Grim, as well as 2 Hard Breach Deniers and the drones from Flores.
Yep.
There's not a lot that's going to be safe from their onslaught.
I think it is worth noting as well that if they don't manage to hold on to the walls for a significant amount of time, then what did you bring all that for? Because if they just get the walls open right off the bat, then I mean, yeah, you made them had to work for it, but did you waste enough time to justify bringing that much when you could have brought a Legion to deny site entry or even Tubero again to just make the attackers' lives a living hell? Gonna see Nyx working outside of the main stairs here. He's gonna open up that window just so the defense is wary of rotating through that area, create some phantom pressure. We're also gonna see Arrow as well as Abstain work on getting this CCTV wall open. Just gonna send someone outside of there, make sure that the defenders can't play that window, as Coffee will most likely look to do so if someone looks to play Highway.
Now, Coffee, I don't know if you've seen his name. It's WinCon Coffee. So I guess they're pretty confident that they can keep things up should that player remain alive, but they forgot to open up holes in the bathroom. It's like
Ooh.
Funky made his way over there to make sure that they can actually hold down that position just a little bit longer. But PXG, as we've expected, really just taking their time, sitting back, using the drones that they have, which they still have 8 at a minute and a half left in the round. The drone denial coming from RSA, along with not having any operators really to actually perpetuate that idea, they're just not shooting the drones. I don't know if they're not seeing them, if they're not hitting them, but there's 7 drones down, 8 on the board. So much information for PXG. If RSA doesn't start fighting back soon, this could be a really tough situation for them.
Yeah, we haven't really seen a ton of entry into the site yet, but PXG have just been using this time to gather the information they want, and we do see Abstain get the opening pick, although there are 2 brought back by RSA here, taking out the Ace and the Grim that were on the board, but the Ace had already done his job. 50 seconds left in this round for PXG to try to work something and get into the site here.
Nothing so far from PXG. Not really even any map control. And I think that might be in part due to the fact that they were looking for this vertical play from every direction, and the fact that 2 of their key positions, both at main stairs and across, got shut down. And now with John Asian out here on the flank, finding one on the highway, that's going to be almost your entire push cut off. One more player down. It's all up to Nightmare Nix in a 1v3.
Gonna try to peek construction here, see if he can get one. He does manage to find the head of Kex. 1v2 now. Smokes on low health. If he could just get the one, he can take it. But no, Punky gets the good peek with the shotgun. Ties us up 1-1 as the second round concludes.
A few key positions there just completely denied by RSA. And I think that is what we really need to be looking for. There wasn't any ability by PXG to find their way into these gaps because there were no gaps. RSA, they may have given the illusion of having these gaps, and PXG was able to really identify those and try and push through them, but I'm not sure that there was really quite enough adaptation by PXG because they did not expect those swings, or in the very least, they weren't able to win those firefights on those swings. And at the end of the day, this
Mhm.
is a first person shooter. If you can't win your firefights, you're not going to be winning rounds. And if you can't win rounds, you're not going to be winning games.
I think it is worth noting as well. Something kind of talked about earlier was like how pug stacks kind of have this like aura of chaos to them, and that can against a lot of teams kind of be very difficult to dismantle because if you kind of like to play the game how Nyx tends to, where you kind of like to check all the boxes and not make mistakes, then if you have a team that's just swinging you and it isn't really giving you anything to go off of, that can oftentimes be very difficult to deal with. And even though they're going to be less organized because they are a pug stack, RSA are kind of going to have the element of surprise because there is no real structure that they're trying to work around. They're just doing whatever works. And they can throw that out if it stops working because they don't have a strat book that they're trying to fall back on.
I'll say I think the thing that I'm most concerned about as far as RSA goes is not going to be opening picks. We see John Asian pulling one out right there. Quick little spawn peek. That's going to be huge. After all, that is going to be 2 whole drones off the board. And that brings me back to what I was going to mention. RSA has very little ability to actually slow down these drones to make sure that PXG doesn't have the information that they need to execute. PXG, though, hasn't really been giving themselves all the time that they have. In the last round, we saw a solid 30, 40 seconds left on the board. And in the meta that we have, you can take almost all those 30, 40 seconds to just make sure you know exactly what you're going to do. And that's not it. Nightmare Nick's losing his life early on to Punky Vert as well. Suddenly, we're missing a lot of vertical interplay and not a whole lot of hard breach left on the board either to help.
Maybe able to get this hatch inside of kitchen open. If they do, it gives them a good place to execute from, but looks like
No.
looks like the impact trick doesn't go according to plan, but Two Bro is on the board, and he can at least delay this for the time being. Cal,
No,
what are you
that
gonna do?
impact trick cleaning up the Selma there, that is just
Brutal.
having that one Selma lost, there's almost oh, didn't actually go through at all. Sh that hatch got open. Okay, I'm crazy. Don't listen to me.
Crazy. We're all crazy here, casting this Rainbow Six match instead of watching SI, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. 1 minute left here. 3v3 is Benjamin Currency, or excuse me, 3v4 is Benjamin Currency, has brought one back. They're going to get this moto hatch open as well, which means that PXG do have plenty of angles they can try to get into the site from, but unless they're able to effectively utilize them, then might not matter. We do see Punky reinforcing that triple wall. Is right now RSA just want to bunker up here. They want to limit the amount of access points there are to this site. So when PXG try to get into the site, they're just walking into angles. And with only 30 seconds left, they're gonna have to start doing that soon.
Here it comes. Push down the main stairs, accompanied by a little bit of pressure through Moto. If that Moto drop can come through and find something, maybe they'll have an entrance. But the fact that they're even able to get up and start applying as much pressure as they have onto this Mira, this is rough. 3 players all pushing through Moto. There's one down, and with a trade coming out and one more going in the direction of RSA, suddenly this looks very solidly RSA's round. Plant going down, but there's not going to be enough time. It's B Money trying to find it. Not going to do anything for them. RSA finding another round on the board.
PXG not able to buy themselves a win, unfortunately, but RSA, on the other hand, able to adapt very well to what was happening as they're applying a lot more early round pressure to PXG than they were before. They're not letting them just take this ground, and they're also winning the gunfights that they were losing in that first round that allowed PXG to get the space that they did. We're going to go over to CCTV now, which is the third site in this rotation. And if they're able to get a flawless rotation and then some, then they'll put RSA in a pretty comfortable position to attack because, they're doing really well. They're playing this really well, but they are working with the advantage that defense brings, which in the meta we're in right now is absolutely 100% way easier than attacking. Gonna see a
Complete
Mind
swap
Jaeger.
on the side of Predator X Gaming.
Ooh,
All 5 players can be suited. No, actually, that's just Dokkaebi to Dokkaebi. Never mind. Buck to buck. But they're
100
going to be
IQ.
bringing some key players here, especially Maverick. I think that's going to be probably our most important player. There's no Tuberau on the board, but the fact that the Mavericks there means they're not going to have to worry about those pesky EMP impacts, or in the very least, they can use them elsewhere to make it a lot easier on them to actually get things open. And with plenty of hard breach, they're going to be opening up a lot of this, and there's really not a whole lot of things to deny them from doing that for very much time. At least not without the Tuberau on the board.
You see Cal start Maverick tricking this CC wall as Benjamin works on opening up the garage panels. We're all gonna have someone sit on the rappel here, just kind of stare into the bottom Maverick hole, so then Cal can't just be swung and killed off of it. And just making pretty quick work at this wall and getting this open this fast, so good.
Yeah, 2 minutes left on the round for player on the balcony to be able to apply pressure. A lot of time that RSA is going to have to sit here and just either try and peek this or try not to peek it after succumbing to that temptation. Someone might lose their life, and it's just so dangerous to be looking for aggressive firefights like that. But instead, RSA is playing back and waiting for PXJ to make the first move, and I think that is the play here. After all, PXG hasn't been able to organize themselves well enough yet to really make a concerted effort and actually get themselves into the site. It worked on their first round. They were able to do that, but RSA has been consistently shutting down the executes ever since, despite the amount of information that PXG has been able to gather. Is this just a case of PXG not quite being able to organize themselves? Is it a leadership issue? Or are RSA really just able to hold down these positions so well that PXG is unable to find the pressure needed?
I think a lot of this is just the fact that RSA has been trying to apply enough pressure that PXG aren't really comfortable moving around or getting into the positions they need to be in. And I mean, it's worked so far. We're going to see Coffee sitting inside of Secret here, just seeing if he could waste some time before he ends up falling back. Cal gets back onto John for our opener here. This will Mayan Garage off of the board, which means that there's a very powerful position the attack could take up if need be. Nyx will end up taking that up along with one other player. This is going to be where the execute springs from, most likely. It's going to be Arrow on that ace. And then Arrow is actually getting another one onto Kegs as well. Tragger going to try to contest this top garage entry, but nothing's going to come of it. Punk is also going to try to contest it, but he ends up getting flashed out. Coffee does get one of the Nightmare Nyx, though. Vertical play from B Money ends up getting one. Coffee going to try to jump out the CC window and just see if he can find something. He does get one, but he's all alone in a 1v2 now with Cal and Benjamin. Benji going to be sitting below, holding the vert here, whilst Cal is just going to sit on the rappel here. They're not going to try to play this too fast. They're going to try to make sure that they don't give Coffee the ones that he so desperately needs. Only about 13 seconds left to try to get on this diffuser. No clue where either attacker is. Going to run out, try to take the fight on the breach player, but doesn't end up finding what he needs. He's running out of time. He does get one, but Benji holding on for him. Going to open up the stock wall. Just make sure, and he's out of time. Benjamin already won the round.
Already won the round, and it's going to be fairly simple. At that point, you're not using your Goyo canisters. And what ended up happening, because they didn't use them, they got locked out of sight. Benji, at that point, unable to get his way into cash. And that's why we saw him jump out that construction window to look for that kill. And yes, while it was a good kill, with those all those Goyo canisters going, suddenly there was no ability for RSA to apply that pressure that we mentioned earlier. And PXG just had free roam of the site, and after that, you can just take a hike. Get yourself away from the diffuser, not so far that you can't go and defend it, but especially with that buck below, you really don't need to be aggressive there. Just take up as much time from the RSA player as possible, and that's really gonna be it. Well done by PXG on that execute and as well on that post plant. That's exactly what we need to be looking at with PXG, but it all comes off the back of a single play, and that is killing John Asian off of that Raptors position. Maybe if RSA had played something to support him there, we could be looking at a very different round, but there was nothing. PXG was able to exploit that using their superior information gathering, and because of that, that's going to be a round in favor of PXG.
Yeah, we saw Cal kind of hold that angle for a while because he knew that if he was able to just kill the Wamai, then that makes Garage way, way more accessible. And Garage is such a powerful place to start and execute from on that site. And once they got that Garage control, we saw Nyx and Arrow just book it up Garage immediately and get that wall open and get the plant down. And then once they got the plant down and kind of set things up how they wanted, then the round was kind of over for RSA. We're back on Gym now, which is the first round or which is the first site rather that RSA was able to win. So we'll see if they can work some of their magic again, or if PXG have been able to kind of figure out what went wrong and are able to adapt to what was done.
Simple start to the round. Basically exactly what they did last time. No trick going to come out on the jacuzzi wall. And lots of hard breach to deny it, even if it did come out. But still no players removed from their positions. Every member of RSA is still tucked tight in their corners. And that's going to be a lot of firefights and crossfires for PXG to be able to push through with all three of them on jacuzzi wall. What is this? Are they only here to just try and get this bathroom wall open? Because that is probably their next step. That's not going to happen. They haven't cleared out the utility needed to actually do that, to actually put in and apply pressure. And now, despite all that, RSA is going to be losing a player. What are they doing? Are they swinging when they don't need to? PXG is falling behind, unable to find what they need, but RSA is just giving it to them. PXG, well, they don't look coordinated. They don't look like they have what they need to actually get in. RSA is still going to end up falling behind. and a that's gonna be a huge advantage for PXG moving into the next half of this round.
Taking out the Lamai this early into the round, or as early as into the round he was taken out, is certainly something you want to see if you're a PXG fan. As he grows more powerful, the longer he is alive. Kex gets one back, but is going to be killed by the Capital Bolt, as well as Benjamin just jumping into the side, but he's immediately refragged by Punky Vert. Arrow gets another, and then Abstain swings for the final as well. Next, PXG taking a fairly convincing round, though not one without mistakes.
John, I love you. I love you, John. Why are you peeking the breach? Why are you peeking the breach when there's 3 people on the breach? I
I respect it.
I would respect it if it led to a win, right? But ultimately, it just gave away the first body that they needed, the first
Hey,
key position that couldn't be given up
he is a
for
pioneer.
PXG. Pioneer of losing the round. I don't
Well,
know.
we are seeing RSA go down 2-3 on a fairly defender-sided map with the way the game is right now, which is not usually what you want to see if you are wanting them to win. Back
Fairly
down.
defender sided.
Ba-
70% defender sided.
I'm trying to be nice. You see them go back down to basement here, which is, I believe, the third time they've attempted this bomb site. So far, they have a 50% success rate on it, and we'll see if that gets better or worse after the end of this round. You're going to see a pretty similar lineup from PXG as the last time they attacked this site, as they kind of have an idea of how they want things to go and what they want to do. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I would guess by this point, they have a pretty good idea of how RSA want to play this and kind of how they want to take it as a result. And even if they lose this round, going into club defense with a 3-3 score line with the way the game works right now is pretty good.
Yeah, and RSA not looking for any adjustment off of what they played last time either. They are
Nope.
playing this really aggressive roam, something that a lot of players would say you don't necessarily need at this point in this meta. And while it is for a long time has been default, this opening pick for RSA, after all, unless they have a very solid plan moving forward or a lot of support for this player up here, that's gonna be hey Ali, how's it going?
It's
That's gonna be while a lot of time wasted, that time waste isn't really necessarily supported by what's happening back back on the actual site.
made an appearance there on the broadcast for a second. I hacked into Stan's PC to get more screen time than my co-caster. So all good, no hate, just playing the game. We do see John get taken out yet again, this time by Nyx flying into the bathroom with the skeleton key. And once again, that's PXG taking out this roamer early on. We do see Punky get a pick back onto Arrow with the C4, which is a lot of good execute on the, or which is a lot of good execute utility taken off of the board now. We're going to see PXG look to set themselves up here, kind of figure out where they want to go, figure out what information they can gather, and maybe try to work out a plan for a plant.
4-4, nothing really determining which side is gonna be having the biggest advantage here. The fact that Tubarão is up with 3 canisters still in his pocket, it'd be really difficult for PXG to find any sort of an entrance. 50 seconds left on the clock. PXG looking for something, but there's not a whole lot given up to them by RSA. They've learned from the last round and decided that, hey, we could just sit back. We don't have to get aggressive here. We're in a decent position. With time clicking down, suddenly PXG is starting to look to be in a tough situation.
30 seconds left, clear entrance into the site. Nyx does get one onto Punky Birth, though he is currently being locked down. Abstain gets another on Trager. Kex gets one back, though. It's a 2v3 here as Nyx marches his way into the site. Coffee tries to contest main stairs as well. Kex is taken down. It's all left up to Coffee, trapped inside a Moto. Nyx gonna peek him from blue and get taken out, but Cal gets the swing from the bottom of main again. And PXG, Predator X Gaming, take a 4-2 split on Clubhouse Attack.
That's absolutely brutal if we are to believe the scoreline set out by SI. Once again, this is an SI though. An RSA, for all we know, could be an attacker sided team. They could have something in their back pocket ready to go and ready to deploy as we move into the second half. And honestly, with the kind of aggression that they're applying here, unless PXG does have an answer for it, there is definitely still a chance for RSA to start pulling this out and start getting aggressive, put PXG in uncomfortable situations and uncomfortable firefights that they're not prepared to take. RSA is definitely not out of the running yet.
Oh, absolutely not. So I do think it is worth mentioning. I kind of praised the aggression that RSI was showing towards PXG, kind of making them comfortable, but eventually PXG just kind of figured out they were going to do that, and so it's like, well, when we're going for the execute, if we could just kill someone when they swing us, and that's like, a guy we don't have to worry about. And
Mhm.
then if two people swing us during the execute, then that's two guys we don't have to worry about. And so that aggression kind of flips into having the opposite effect that it did. So we're going to see PXG go to the defense now. And given how they're a more disciplined team than RSA is, they're not going to be hopefully making that same kind of mistake. They're going to be more inclined to just kind of sit back and not let the execute happen, but hold the position. So when the execute happens, they're going to be in a lot better position to just kind of like get the trades they need and lock the site down.
Ram being played, not entirely surprising on this map. There is a lot of vertical interplay to be had, especially looking at this area of the map that we're looking over down into Armory from the main floor. Super easy to find some good angles there, find some picks through there, or in the very least, deny a lot of positioning from the attack from the defenders rather. Able to get those open, but kind of a precarious situation given the fact that now PXG is able to look back up, and Cal is still in strip. They've done nothing to address this player so far, and while they may be able to cut him off fairly simply through the strip door, I don't know how that's going to end up working out, especially with WBS Arrow able to sit here as well, waiting for the double swing to come out from RSA.
Yeah, Keg's going to try to get in, but it's going to end up getting killed off. Although Coffee does get a refrag, but it's not the position you want to be in if you are RSA. Cal still sitting inside a strip. It looks like they might have an idea of where he is, but he's just going to be patient here. He knows that they have to be worried about him. They have to remember that he exists. And if he can just sit here and waste time, that is so much more valuable than if he gets a kill.
All they really need to do here is put a drone on him, though, to know where he is, know whether or not he comes up behind them, and they just turn around later in the round when he goes for that. There's no way he's not getting caught by the bees right now.
I think
Oh,
it's just out of the radius.
that is so unlucky if you're RSA. Well, but they know where he is anyway. They droned him out. So there's going to be some aggression here, but they've only got 50 seconds left on the clock to clear out this player and then turn their entire focus away from this onto the site.
So they do have a man advantage going into the execute here, but it doesn't look like they have a ton really prepared to go for this execute. They have some vert open, they have some hatches open, but they don't even have kitchen hatch. They just now got moto hatch open, and they're only 30 seconds left. They have to start moving now. Things are going to get dire. Nyx sits over by AK, is going to start throwing his smoke grenades down just to lock off the flanks. They don't have to worry about blue now because Nyx can just start smoking it off. Only 20 seconds
Player
left.
in dirt,
Kitchen's
though.
just now opened. John falls down the hatch. Coffee does get one onto Nyx. And then John gets another. It's all left up to Abstain. Left in the 1v4. Gonna rotate down bottom main. See if we get a gunfight on a player inside of Arsenal, but no one's giving him anything. But the plant doesn't go down. They go for the pick instead. What?
Huh? What? Where? Where was the bomb? Why wasn't it on the ground? What are you doing? Ah. Oh, Ali.
What?
Oh, I.
So according to John, the bomb was outside of the building. I wasn't really super sure where it was because I just kind of assumed that it was going to be on whoever had the hard breach, but fortunately it was not, which just kind of allows Abstain to exist and then win the round. So, not really what you want to see going into this, but that was certainly one of the rounds that I have ever casted. I'm sure there's also one of the rounds that Yali has ever casted.
Ah.
Hopefully, we can see a little bit more proficiency of keeping track of the diffuser or
Mhm.
RSA going into this next round. We're gonna see
I
Jim
will say
Bedroom here
excellent round from RSA. To be
until it
clear,
wasn't.
up until it wasn't, right. It everything that they did up until that point, great. Clearing out the roamers, maybe a little bit aggressive, but the fact that they were able to completely turn on a dime and just focus onto the site and get in there aggressively, much to the chagrin of PXG, very impressive. The fact that they didn't have the diffuser is definitely kind of a pug stacky thing, but but still, the rest of the round very impressive, and I think that speaks to the kind of calling structure that RSA has. And if they're able to continue that throughout this attacking half, they may have a good chance here, and especially if they keep starting things off with good opening picks like that.
Taking off an Azami less than a minute into the round with an excellent pick. Looks like it's from the hatch as well, so bit of an awkward rotation being attempted by Arrow there, which is punished. So a lot more sight lines are going to remain up for the attack, and as well, a lot of cover is going to be less existent for the defense than it would have been with Arrow on the board. And a lot of walls are still closed though, and even with this advantage, if RSA aren't able to work very quickly, then could still be trouble.
5v4 favoring RSA. And not a lot of walls open, Allie. It doesn't matter though. Nightmare Nix is gonna peek him, I guess, and that's gonna be John Asian on his second on the round. But Abstain
Oh,
with the double nitro, evening it out, and that's gonna be two key players. Suddenly, it's gonna be much more difficult to dislodge players without the Ash charges or the Grim coat, the
the
Kawana Hive
bees.
launcher, the bees. No bees, no bees, Allie. Suddenly, we're in a 3v3. This looks even, and BXG is able to continue to hold on to their powerful positions that they've built using these zombie barricades. This is going to be a nightmare for RSA to penetrate into.
Only 49 seconds left. We see Cal get one onto Kexacy. Punky tries to peek Cal, but ends up getting killed as well. All stuff to copy. He's going to jump in the breach. Try to peek the long haul, but not able to find anything as he just ends up on 1 HP. Has 30 seconds left to try to find these ones, but PXG don't want to give them to him. He's going to try to rotate and just see if he can find anything. He manages to get one, take down Benji. Only has 2 more to find and 20 seconds left to do it. Going to sit and wait. Slowly check every angle. Make sure that he's not peeked from an expected angle, but doesn't expect the prone from Cal. And it's Predator X Gaming on match points.
Predator X Gaming just looks ready to play. I mean, yes,
They know
RSA
ball.
has been able to come in and catch them off guard time to time, but Predator X definitely looks like they have much more generally solid positioning, and maybe we call that an older style. But the newer style with players coming from every direction is not something that RSA has been able to pull off successfully yet. I guess you could argue that their first attacking round, attacking the basement, was pretty successful, but how much of that new style they really represented there is
Yeah,
questionable.
I think the thing with that new style as well is that you need a lot of coordination to kind of have everyone be in the places they need to be at the right time.
Mhm.
Because it's not just about the collapse, but it's about the coordination of the collapse, moving the people around in order to kind of get the execute you need. And if you don't have the coordination that you need, which you can kind of tell they don't always have it because they left the diffuser outside when they had a 4v1, and that kind of thing can make that style really falter when you're playing against teams that are very kind of structured and organized.
Mhm. PXG moving on to the next round got a not entirely. Oh, here it is. This is what I mentioned at the beginning, Ali. I was
It
gonna
is
say it's not entirely traditional, but here it is, the mirror window on the CC Balk. Look,
the
they're
CC
doing
Balkan
it.
window.
CC Balk mirror window.
So they're gonna try to.
And
What they're most likely
yeah,
gonna
this
do here is just open this up and then impact trick it. And then even with
Mhm.
an ace, it's hard to get that wall open just because the mirror window is there, and it's kind of difficult to get like the orientation you need. So it is going to delay a lot of time if the XG play this right.
Uh, there's going to be your first impact. And there is going to be more hard breach on the board, but not quite enough to deny for every impact. Cal, first player off the board. It's John Asian once again with the opening pick. Doing an excellent job taking those engagements and for the most part winning them as well. Now we find ourselves in a 5v4 with RSA leading the charge, but we've been here before. We've been here twice just on this attacking half, and so far they've yet to convert.
Yeah, they've done a good job of getting like the early advantages, but PXG have done a good job of staying calm and just doing what they need to get the man advantage back and keep the site safe, right? They're not panicking, they're not trying to do stupid things. They are still playing in ways that make sense. They're still coordinating with one another. And look at this. We see another attempt at coordination,
Oh.
but John gets a beautiful flick and then another on the Knicks. And
Make that a 3 for John.
single-handedly brings this round into his team's favor. Benjamin gets one back, but so there's so much he can do. Sits at the top of red. He has a mirror window here, but 50 seconds left to hold the site down. It's not looking good.
Yeah, especially with that next kill coming out. It's all up to Benji Mula in the 1v4. Seems to know where at least some of the players are, but that's going to be the first pick. The second one coming out. Does he know where the third is? He's on the breach. Does he get flashed? No, he's completely safe here. But with the peak coming out, firefight, back and forth, bullets being traded. But with the swing coming around the other side of the server stack, it's not going to be enough. Benji Mula, despite fighting for his life, give RSA their third round on the map, but PXG is going to remain on match point.
So, beautiful play from John to get that 3K. It's a nasty, nasty flick onto Abstain, and then gets a follow-up onto Nyx as well. I did see Benji Mula do his best to try to bring it back, but unfortunately, the swing from two directions just doesn't pan out the way that he needs it to. Although we do see PXG go back to the first site they won. Granted, the way they won it was not how you're usually supposed to win rounds, but it is still the first site they won, and they have a much better read on how RSA want to play these now, and they have a much better idea of their win condition right now, which has been John so far, especially in that last round, getting a 4K to bring his team to victory.
Maybe it
So-
should be WinCon John.
It should be WinCon John.
That goes kind of hard.
I'm starting a formal petition for WinCon John. Or alternatively, WinConathan Jonathan.
Just WinConathan.
Hell yeah.
Why did I agree to do this with you?
I don't know. It was your idea, actually, if I recall.
Was my idea. Oh, it was my idea. You're right.
It was a
My
great
bad. My
idea,
bad.
I think.
No, I was...
All
All right, you know what? It's a great idea. I'll pat myself on the back for it. We'll do that.
We just see Nightmare Nyx playing inside of bar. We also see Cal playing up with him near main stairs. Punky Vert taken out first by Nyx. The opening pick this time going the way of PXG. Now they're just gonna fall back. They're not gonna give RSA the chance to get a refrag on that pick. They're gonna force them to play slow and steady.
What we saw last time, though, was kind of a similar situation. It was a little bit more evened out, but at the end of the day, RSA was able to get really aggressive in the last few seconds of the round, and that's really what saved them. Ooh, aggressive shots, though, coming out onto the Buck. That's not going to be enough to kill him, but it might be enough to deter him, waste a little bit of time, and allow for the impact trick to get set up. That's going to be one of your flat place breaching charges, one of your can openers off the board. And while you've got a few, the aggression from the Buck is really going to be what makes sure that you actually get that hatch open.
Beautiful aggression coming out here from PXG. Even if they're not sitting up off of the site directly contesting RSA, they're still trying to keep that hatch open by either just trying to kill the guy on top of it or just impact trick what's on top of it. And so they're trying not to let RSA have all of the space that they would want. They're trying to keep them at bay. as best they can. Nyx is going to try and aggressively peek dirt here, and he actually does get the pick on the
Oh,
Dredger.
nasty. Nasty shot from Nyx. That's going to be absolutely massive for PXG. Is now suddenly they're able to hold a crossfire for every single player on RSA. Now it's an absolute nightmare for RSA to actually push in, especially given the fact that they have no more heart breach. They are not getting the moto hatch open. They are not getting bottom main wall open. And especially with those mirrors facing back that way, it's going to be hard for them to even consider it.
Nightmare Nyx gets one, as well as Abstain being taken out. So 4v2 here. Going into this execute, it looks like they're going to try to drop the kitchen hatch as well as walk through dirt here. Which, given how things have gone so far for RSA, that's probably about the only thing they can do. Gonna sit and wait for people to get in position. John gonna drop down and take the fight, but Benjamin has got him. Kex gets in, but Nyx gets the 4K and closes out the round. Next, PXG taking it 7-3.
That's going to be a wonderful game from both sides. And while we may as well call it a bit of a warm up for RSA, they did do pretty well. They showed that they've got some coordination. And as well with two subs, their calling structure was still able to put up a decent fight on some of those rounds. And it's hard to say that there aren't a few rounds that they probably wouldn't have just outright won, given the fact that they were just that close. But PXG, like I mentioned earlier, they just came ready to fight. They
They
were
did.
there looking to put together their attacks, put together, like hold their defenses really solid. And RSA wasn't able to quite penetrate through it, especially on the defense, where RSA potentially got a little bit over aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was an aggression that was very, very heavily capitalized on by PXG, which you kind of would expect, given that they're going to be the more structured team and have the systems in place to take advantage of that. And as well, they also did a very good job of on that last round, kind of like calling. They're getting the opening pick and they're just kind of running away with it. What if we just don't let them do that? What if we just, don't let them have any of the space that they'd want to have going into this execute? And then when it's when they're down a man count, we'll just make sure that we lock down every possible angle. So even if they do get a kill, that doesn't translate to a win.
Well, in any case, EXG, they're going to be coming off with the first win, and that's going to be only our first match. Ali and I will be back soon with another, so don't go anywhere.